Welcome to Lunch and Learn from the League of Women Voters. I'm Ann Zimmerman. I'm the Vice President of the League of Women Voters, and we have a website, www.lwvsalina.org, and with a lot of information there. We've just updated our website recently, so it has a lot more than it used to. David Norland back here is our membership chair, and if you're interested in joining, you can certainly talk to him, or you can go online. For today, our topic is the van that has begun going out to find the homeless in Salina. And so our speakers today are from the two sponsoring organizations, the Salina Rescue Mission, where Chad Young is the executive director, and Catholic Charities, where Claudia Humphreys is the Director of Stabilization. So please welcome them. They're going to come on over to the table here. Thank you.
Hi, as she stated, my name is Claudia Humphrey, Director of Stabilization Services at Catholic Charities. And I'm just going to come and give you a quick overview of the agency as it stands. We offer about 18 different services within Catholic Charities. We range from the normal things people know us for, which is adoption, counseling, and emergency assistance, where if a person needed assistance with some of their rent or utilities, a prescription, we offer those services. We do have a licensed therapist, so we offer counseling, a pregnancy maintenance initiative where we help to work with women that are pregnant, any age, any income, but we work with them over the life of the pregnancy and then 6 months beyond the pregnancy, just to make sure they deliver healthy babies, and we help them kind of get stable and secure after the child is born, or to help them develop an adoption plan if that is what they choose to do. I run a few different programs. One of them is the Homeless Prevention Program, which kind of ties right into the program that we're kind of doing today. We kind of started with a program where we help individuals who are in the legal system who are at risk of homelessness. And so what we do is we provide them assistance in rent and utilities for up to 3 months, including the first month's deposit. I meet with them weekly to kind of help to keep them stable. I work with their probation and parole, corrections officers, and any mental health or drug counselors that they might have, kind of a wraparound service as we try to get them stable. It's been well documented that if a person is able to secure stable, secure, safe housing, where they don't kind of have to flop here and flop there, they have a much better chance of staying out of the criminal justice system and remaining clean and sober. So that is the kind of the goal of that particular program. From there, we developed our mobile outreach, which allows us to go out into our other 31 counties, some different areas, to try to reach all of the people that we serve, kind of meet people where they are. And then from that, we developed street outreach, and that was where we said, you know, there's people right here in Salina who are not housed, or even if they are housed, it's not very good housing. They don't have the food and maybe other things that they might need on a monthly basis. And so what can we do to get out there and find them, again, meeting them where they are with what they might need. And then the final program I run is the Kansas Loan Pool Project, which helps individuals who are caught in predatory debt. So payday loans, flex locks lines of credit, title loans, those types of things. We partner with a bank here in Salina to offer kind of a refinance loan where, depending upon the size of the loan, which can get up to as much as about $1,800, we can give them a monthly payment plan to get them out of that predatory debt and then give them an actual payoff plan and date. And we work with them. Again, I meet with them monthly for financial coaching. So that's kind of an overview of a little bit of everything that we do at Catholic Charities. I'm sure I missed some things. So there are some forms up here that kind of literally outline every program that we have. As I mentioned, street outreach was kind of where kind of it all kind of started. And so I'm just going to kind of tell you a little bit about that real fast. Basically, street outreach was, again, there was a program through the funder that helped us with the homeless prevention. And we started to, as we started to go out into the street to search for people and see, you know, who's out there, who really might need our assistance, we really started to run into a lot more people than I think we even thought we would, who weren't housed, we were finding under bridges and sleeping in our parks and living behind businesses here in Salina. And we started to see and ask them, what are your needs out here? And so that's when we kind of began to pack the van with the things that we knew that they needed, you know, things like blankets and a food supply that they could easily eat right there. Obviously, you can come into our small food pantry and get a bag of food, but if you don't have a place to cook it, it really doesn't help. So we decided to put a food bag together that would be able to be eaten where they are. So everything has a pop lid, pop tab on any cans that we offer, bottles of water, granola bars, some fruit, things that can kind of sustain them. It's not a lot, but it's enough to at least help them get them through. So we did this on Mondays and Thursdays. We went out for a couple hours on a Monday, a couple hours on a Thursday, and we started to see that blankets were a necessity, sleeping bags, coats, clothes. One of the biggest things people asked for were socks. I can't tell you how many people asked for socks. So it was so many of the different things that we hadn't ever thought of because, well, I go home every night. And so there are things that I just have at my disposal because that's where I live. If I need toilet paper, I go get toilet paper. If I'm hungry, I get myself something to eat. So we started to see what the need was and really started to say, how can we maybe work with others to make this a bigger project, to work it out better. And that's when we were blessed to have Chad come along and say, hey, what can we do? Obviously, they are the experts in homelessness. We were kind of tapping into this kind of new arena that we hadn't really been in before, and suddenly we had this person who had expertise in the area that said, let me help you make this bigger and better, where we help even more people. And then we've had, since then, a couple more agencies that have joined our forces, I would say. So on Mondays, Jill Smith-Barker, who's in our office, and our social worker, tags with a person named Ian Green from RADAC, which is the Regional Area Drug and Alcohol Center. I believe that's what it stands for. And so they kind of tag team together on Mondays, and they kind of spend most of the day from about 9 a.m. to about 1:30 p.m. out in the streets looking for individuals, seeing how we might be able to assist people who are in need. And then on Thursdays, Jim Kelly and from Rescue Mission and Rachel Holt from Central Kansas Mental Health pair up, and they go do the very same things in most of the same areas, but we kind of now are able to kind of double our efforts and work harder and more together as cohesive kind of agencies to see what it is that we can do while we're out there to offer even better services to these individuals who are in such need in our communities. And that was like a quick overview of kind of how it all began, but that's kind of the start of where we went, hey, there might be a bigger need for something a little bit different than the shelters that we do have here that do such amazing work already, but what about the individuals that kind of fall through the cracks, that don't get into the Salina Rescue Mission, that don't get into Ashby House? And so what can we do to help those individuals beyond just that bag of food on a Monday or the sleeping bag on a Thursday? What is it we can do? And again, we were blessed and God graced us with Chad, who gave us what he's going to talk about, which is our wonderful, wonderful new winter shelter, Salina Grace.
Well, thank you, Claudette. I think you give me more accolades than I deserve. All of this starts with the heart, right? That's where everything gets started with. You've got to love people. You've got to care about people. You've got to want to make a difference. And that's what we saw in Catholic Charities and their outreach and their efforts. And our heart, our hearts are right there with them. We don't want to see people struggling on the streets. We want to be able to give the help. We want to be able to give the resources. And so when we first learned of the street outreach, it was like a kick in the pants. It was like, golly, how come we haven't been doing that? You know, why aren't we doing that? Why is this agency having to do this alone? I firmly believe this, and I've shared it several times. I believe we are going to start accomplishing way more than we ever thought we could when we as agencies in our community begin to work together. And our agencies are committed to working together, to pooling our resources together. A lot of the same people who support Catholic Charities, support the Salina Rescue Mission, support Ashby House, support DVAC, support other agencies in our community. And I think we have a responsibility for us to come together and pool our resources and our efforts together to reach out to people in our community. For people who are struggling, of one of which I have been, making the changes that we need to make in our lives is a difficult thing. So often we oversimplify things and we say, oh, just get a job, just do this, just. When we say these things, I know where our hearts is, I know what we're all thinking, but it's never just. We simplify things by saying, just do this, okay? But it's a lot harder when you are locked into patterns of life and patterns of living that are self-destructive. And it's hard to get out of those self-destructive patterns. And so we want to be merciful, we want to be graceful, but at the same time we want help. We want to give help that is meaningful and that will make a greater impact so that somebody can get up and stand up on their own 2 feet and start living a new life. That's what the big picture goal is. The big picture isn't to keep coming around to the same person every day and giving them a sack lunch. The bigger picture is helping them to get up from that position and move forward towards one day having their own place to live, their own kitchen to prepare their food in, the means that they need to start taking care of themselves. And that's where the bigger goal is. But like I say, it's a hard road, that transition is. At the Salina Rescue Mission, we have 3 programs to help men get back on their own 2 feet. We have our guest employment program, which is our main program that the majority of the people who stay at the mission stay in that program. And the focus of that program is for men to be able to find a job, save money, pay off debts, find a place to live, and move back out into the community. We do not set up a time limit for this to be done, meaning you don't have to do all this in 30 days. It takes longer than that for people to really get stabilized to where they can start making the positive success and steps forward that they need to make. So we do not have a time limit at the Salina Rescue Mission for how long a person can stay at the mission. Everything that we do is goals-based towards the outcomes we are looking for. So if it takes somebody 3 months, 6 months, 9 months, a year, 2 years, so be it. We are prepared to walk that long walk with somebody so that they can, in the end, be able to succeed. Our second program is our New Life program, which is a long-term recovery program. It's a Christian-focused program where people look to rebuild their lives with Christ at the center. And so we're helping them to address a lot of issues going on in their life. And first of all, learning I struggled for 17 years with alcohol and drug abuse, and I was in and out of jail, and I made a lot of mistakes in my life. And one of the first messages of Christ that I heard that made a profound impact on me was God knew everything I did and He forgave me. People who are struggling with whatever addictions they're struggling with do not feel good about themselves. They understand that they are doing things wrong, that they are doing things that are hindering themselves. And there's a lot of guilt that goes along with that. There's a lot of shame and a lot of remorse that goes along with that. And so if you're going to start rebuilding somebody, you need to start off with forgiveness. Forgiveness allows us the platform to say, okay, we've messed up. Now we can part company with the past and we can start moving towards the future. And that's what we do in our New Life program at the mission. That program takes anywhere from 12 to 18 months for a person to go through it. Like I said, these kind of wholesale change that we're looking for does not happen quickly. But we have found that when we're patient and we continually walk alongside people and sow into their lives, it makes a big, meaningful difference in their lives. And then our third program is our medical mental health program, and that is for people who cannot work due to medical or mental health issues. And the goals for people like that is, okay, what does long-term housing look like for you? What are steps that you're going to need to take along the way to be able to get there? What are we doing to address your health care needs? We make sure people get to doctor's appointments if they need to get to a doctor's appointment. We will help with medications for people who need help with their medication. And we're trying to do everything we can so that at the end of the day, the goal is that the person is living in their own place or in an assisted living facility to where they can have a long-term stable living environment. And that's what our goal is. Unfortunately, when we are struggling with the issues that we as human beings sometimes struggle with, we don't always make the best decisions. When I tried to get my life back together and get off drugs and alcohol, I relapsed several times. And every time I relapsed, there were consequences for my relapse. Okay? Consequence, lost my job. Consequence, I lost my home. Consequence, I hurt relationships in my family. I put myself in a difficult position. So there are all these natural consequences that come with those decisions. And believe me, you remember them. And eventually you get tired of starting over and starting over and starting over, and it does make an impact to where you want something more out of life. Sometimes at the mission, when somebody is making these choices, we have to say, I'm sorry, you need to leave. And believe me, it's not something we enjoy doing. And during the winter months especially, we hate doing it even more. As a matter of fact, we are very graceful and slow to ask someone to leave in the winter months. But there is a time and a place when you have to do that. With that being said and that in mind, the thought of someone shivering out in the cold, just, I can't sleep well at night. There's got to be something more we can do. And so that's when we began talking. And, we began talking with Catholic Charities, with Ashby House, with DVAC, with Serenity House, with Central Kansas Foundation. We talked to Central Kansas Mental Health. We talked to the hospital. We talked to the Sheriff's Department, the Salina Police Department. We talked with our local parole and probation office. And we said, guys, what do you think? Would it be a benefit to our community if we provided another shelter for the people who are really struggling the most in our community, the people who are struggling the most to stay sober and to do the things that maybe they want to do the right things, but they're just struggling to do it right now? Can we give them a place to where at least during the winter months they can have a warm place to sleep? Can we do at least that? And the community came back together and we said, yes, we can do that. And yes, it is a worthy goal for us to be working on. And so with that, we started putting together what is now known as Salina Grace, which is housed in Grand Avenue United Methodist Church. It started in this past December, and right now that's taking anywhere from 3 to 5 people every night off the streets and just giving them a warm shelter so that they can sleep and have a warm place to stay and have some food to eat. And the goal there is that when they can and when they're ready to, that they will then go back to the Salina Rescue Mission or back to Ashby House and get the greater services that our organizations can provide for them and help them to get back up and start working once again on getting back on their own 2 feet. So that's a little bit about the genesis of how this all started and got going and where our hearts are at. And there's so much information we could share, but I want to make sure that this time that we have here together is meaningful. So what I'd like to do is just open up the floor and allow you to ask questions that may be on your hearts about what we're doing, why we're doing it, how we're doing it, and be able to take this time to answer your questions and share with you the information that you want to know. Yes?
So I have a question because your goal is to help these men and women to survive and to live on their own. And how do you do that in Salina when there's not enough housing and the housing that is available is so high that the cost of living in Salina is ridiculous for rent? How do you set them up to be able to stay successful at that when people that do have jobs and have, transportation struggle just to keep ends meet, whereas you have one person that already has the world on their shoulders and doesn't have transportation? It's hard in Salina to live. And my heart goes out to them because it is in Salina, and I've never lived anywhere as difficult as Salina for housing and just to survive in Salina. It's expensive and rent is outrageous, and my heart goes out to them because I can see setbacks that you get laid off or you struggle with your addiction and they're going to put you out. I mean, and then you're just starting back over, and so that's. Do you want to take that first?
Sure. Regarding housing, I don't think that that's something we're in a position necessarily to answer. I mean, we have no impact on the cost of rent.
Right.
But what we can do is say, okay, here's what we have and here's what it's going to take to be able to sustain yourself. Mm-hmm. So while someone is staying at the mission, our goal is, first of all, pay off your debts. Okay? We want to see people who are staying at the mission be able to leave the mission debt-free. That would be our goal, so that they don't have the burden of those extra financial commitments, so that they can be able to meet their basic living expenses. A realistic goal for me to share with one of our shelter guests is you should be saving at least $750 a month before you even think about leaving the Salina Rescue Mission. Because if you cannot save that much money a month while you're staying at the rescue mission, I don't see how you're going to be able to make it in the community. Right. It's just going to be a matter of time before you end up coming right back. Exactly. So we're trying to sow the seeds and help people understand you're going to need discipline. Mm-hmm. Okay? We do financial counseling and teach people about the basics of budgeting. I have this much income. This is what my known living expenses are. I designate that money, whether it's an envelope system or some other system that you use, but you need to be aware of what your budget is, and then you're going to have some self-discipline. And luckily at the mission, we can take the time to practice that self-discipline while they're there, and hopefully give them the tools and resources so that they can have a better chance of being successful when they move out.
With regard to what Catholic Charities does, especially with our homeless prevention program, again, we target individuals who are involved in the legal system, but we can help them with as much as up to 3 months rent. What we try to do is 100% first month, 75%, 50% to kind of help them get kind of used to and get the ability to pay their own rent, pay their own utilities, although that is flexible. So if an individual is, doesn't start a job until midway through the first month, they're not going to be able to pay 75% of the second month. So we can go up to 100% on all 3 of those months, with the ability to then extend it an additional 3 months based, of course, on funding. It is a federal program, so we do have to go by what we're given. But we're also very lucky at Catholic Charities to have some really amazing donors who believe in a lot of our programs, who allow us to sometimes use some of our general funds for different programming to continue to help individuals, even sometimes when we run out of funds. But so we try to do things like that. And then obviously we have our regular emergency assistance. So if a person is short that month on rent or utilities, many of the agencies, Salvation Army, the food bank, can also help with a little bit of rent. Now, the unfortunate part of that is, again, you're basing it on funding and on a specific budget. So if a person comes in to get help on rent, let's say this month, and they get the full $150 that we can help with, then they are not eligible for our financial assistance through that particular program again for another year. But that doesn't mean we won't help them with food, with clothing, with hygiene items, and maybe some of the other things that we can kind of take off of their plate.
What times of day does the van go out, and are people pretty willing to trust and come out?
Typically, 9 a.m. to about noon is what we're looking at doing. And what we've done is we've done a good job of partnering with each other to make sure that whether it's Monday or Thursday, we go to the same places at the same time every Monday and Thursday. So that way those whom we're reaching out to can now know, hey, every Monday and Thursday I can be at this location at this time and be able to get some help from either Catholic Charities or Salina Rescue Mission as part of their street outreach program. So we have to be consistent in what we do so that the people know how to find us, where to find us, and what kind of help they can expect. As we meet with people, and we're averaging about 20 people right now. Every time we go out, we're visiting with about 20 people. We're giving out food, we're giving out bottled water, we're offering blankets, we're offering jackets. But we're also talking to them about what other help do they need. Have you been, and we encourage them, hey, have you thought about going back to the Salina Rescue Mission, or have you thought about going to Ashby House, or have you thought about this, and we try to plant seeds for them to be able to get greater help while we're out there.
And one of the other things that we're lucky to have along with our 2 agencies is the people who kind of tag team with us on those days. So as I mentioned, Ian Green from RADAC. So if an individual is suffering from any type of substance abuse issue, right there we have someone on Mondays who can talk to them, can kind of explain the procedures, see the process, and see what he might be able to do to get them some assistance in that way. And then on Thursdays, having Central Kansas Mental Health worker from there kind of tag team with Salina Rescue Mission on that day. Again, a person suffering with some mental health issues, perhaps someone that sometimes they've known before, but for whatever reason they've fallen off coming to Central Kansas Mental Health. They have that ability to kind of re-enter their lives and see is there a way that we can assist you. So really what we're trying to do on that Monday and Thursday is not only just give them that bag of food or the coat and walk away, but like Chad said, what other services that we offer within our agencies, but also what other services with other agencies that we partner with on a regular basis can we refer them to, take them to, get on the phone with someone from that agency right there to put them in connection with. We do that a lot. But yeah, we try to stay consistent, work together, and we're really lucky here in Salina. I mean, we cover 31 counties, and so we're very blessed with as much as having as many resources as we do here, but also how many of us really work together to try to see how can we best help every individual that kind of comes through our doors or as we meet on the street through street outreach.
What are the demographics of the people that you're seeing, the 20? Are they male, are they female, are they older?
Under bridges in our parks, we probably see predominantly more males. We do have some housing areas that, I don't know if you really call them housing, but we see a lot more women, families, children in those particular areas where we go to. I would say, however, when you're talking about an age range, obviously we have parents with children, so sometimes we're literally taking diapers out to these people so they can take care of their children. And we're also seeing individuals who are, you know, I think about my parents and I think no people who are 80 years old should be outside asking and waiting for us to give them a sack lunch. But so when I say the age is wide, I'm talking from a little baby to an 80-year-old woman or gentleman.
And I did bring some statistics with me about that, and I'd be happy to go over the details of those statistics with you afterwards, but she's absolutely right. Predominantly, we're seeing adults, but we also are seeing minors and children, so there are families out there that we're seeing as well. But predominantly it's adult men, but then we do have women out there, and then we do have families out there.
What kind of success rate do you have?
Okay, so what are we measuring for success? I asked that question, you know, it's a bigger question than what sometimes we give it credit for. Success is not perfection. Success is progress, okay? Me as a follower of Christ, I judge my success based upon one thing. Am I being faithful to what God has asked me to do? Okay? And so that's the biggest thing. That's the only thing I can control. I can't control what other people do with what I give them, but what I can do is say, am I being faithful in offering the help that we can offer? So I don't know how to answer the question of what is success, what is your success rate. We successfully go out 2 times a week every week, and every person that we see, we stop and talk to, and we sit there and we try to let them know we care, and we give them some help, and we try to redirect them. How many people follow through on the help that we try to offer, I don't have those numbers because unfortunately they rarely report back to us. You know, it's the same issue we have at the rescue mission. Usually once a guy leaves the mission, very rarely do we hear back from them to be able to hear how they're doing on further down the road. So success is a tough thing to measure when you're talking about how you're helping people in the realm that we're talking in. You know, it's easy to talk about success when you're talking about how many people graduated a program and stuff like that, but I think this is just a little bit different animal. So I hope I didn't do the politician thing and punt the question there, but that's the only way I know how to answer.
I was really asking your perception of your
Yeah.
success, not 35% of people get a job, but your perception of it.
My perception is we're doing a good job and that we're going out to the community and we're doing all we can. And for that, I feel that we're doing a pretty darn good job on that.
And I would just kind of add on to that with our success. I think one of the biggest successes with this particular program is how it has literally brought so many of our agencies together.
Yes.
Sometimes we were doing the things, but it's like I'll be honest, we're funded, right? So a lot of us get federal funds or state funds or donors, and it's not like Salina's huge, so we're all fighting for the same almighty dollar sometimes to be able to do what it is that we do. But suddenly we were coming to the table and we sat down and we said, hold on a minute. What's the greater goal here? And isn't it to help the people who walk the door, or who we meet on the street, or who call on the phone? Isn't that the greater goal? If that's the greater goal, then let's sit at the table. Let's figure this out. And I think if you want to talk about success, I've been doing this since I got out of college. It's the only thing I wanted to do. So I've been doing this since I was 26 years old when I started my first
And
internship.
you're 27 now.
And right, so the whole year that I've so almost 20 years, actually it's been 20 years that I've been doing this. And I'm from Salina. This is my home. This is where I was born, where I was raised, where I went to school. This community means so much to me. But to see our agencies all coming together to say, what can we do as one unit? Different names, sometimes different goals and parameters of who it is that we help, but what can we come to do as one Salina community with different agencies to help the people we're seeing walk through our doors or call on the phone or out on the street? What can we do? And that alone, I would say, has been the greatest success I've seen in a long time here in our community.
Amen.
I'd like to add a little bit to what you all are saying. I am on the Emergency and Food Bank Board. I do some special work for St. Francis Community Services. And I also, at Christ Cathedral, we give out lunches 5 days a week. Somewhat the same thing you're doing. We do items that are easily opened, that we're not fixing with our hands. We have not tried to be a food pantry, but particularly in the summertime, even with the wonderful programs the schools are doing, it's sometimes too far for children to go to one of the schools for lunches, so we keep a little bit more family-friendly food, like instant macaroni and cheese, but we always say, are you under cover? Do you have water? Do you have heat? Often, which means a microwave. So sometimes the things we give out we want them to be immediately accessible. We receive generous community from other organizations and churches in town, individuals. We always need volunteers. But one thing I have noticed, and also we are connected loosely with Ashby House because we're on the same grounds, is there's some marvelous activities, but we really don't have a clear idea of what everyone else is doing. I went over to a church the other day, didn't know they did this and this and this. I went back to my own church, talked to our treasurer, he said, oh, I'm giving out bus passes and something else. I said, I didn't know that. The same thing with other churches, other organizations, is that we all have a marvelous mission, but we have not gotten the information together. St. Francis, for instance, now has Clover House dealing with young girls who are victims of sexual trafficking. And I went to a meeting a year or so ago, and for almost everyone who stood up, said I was such and such doing this, we would all look at each other and go, I didn't know that.
Yeah.
So there is a little bit of a holdup in information, and perhaps we can solve that sometime. But right now, it is still a little bit of thinking about it, pick up a phone. I talked to someone at your place the other day. I mean, so.
I have a question and comment. First of all, I commend you on the communication thing coming together. That is huge. And I commend you on being able to do that. Are a good share of the people you help transient, or are they local? And I saw the other end of it, enabling, because there's so many people that are capable of working but choose not to, that are not spending money wisely. I'd open garbage cans, they couldn't afford rent, but they had beer bottles and pizza boxes, cigarette cartons. So I kind of see the other side, and I've also lived in cities where I've seen that by doing so much help, Salt Lake City for one, they were going to call in the National Guard because it became a place, word got out, that if you go to Salt Lake City, another one's Kansas City, they've got so many good services, it's like the word gets out and just poof. That's why I'm asking, are they transient or local that you're primarily helping?
We're around 25 to 30% are transient, and the majority of them are from our community or our surrounding communities.
Many times they call me and say, Catholic Charities is going to write me out a check for $150. And I would call Catholic Charities and say, he can work. If you'd see what's in his trash can, he could, So that's why, are they held accountable, the people that you are serving?
First of all, I have to come from our Catholic social teachings. This is, although we serve anyone, it doesn't don't ask about religion or whether or not you believe in God. However, for us, we come from a place of Catholic social teaching. Our belief is that we definitely need to teach people how to fish, but sometimes we need to feed the person a fish. And so we do both at our agency. If we can keep a person from being evicted and being homeless, and we can give them $150, or we can keep their lights on with $100, or whatever it is that we can do in that crisis moment, then yes, we absolutely are going to do that if they fall within the guidelines that we've set for that particular program. We will always do that because, as he stated earlier, there's also the mission that we have being Christians, and to do what is right and to do what is hard. And sometimes what is hard is obviously a person sees the trash can full of beer bottles and pizza boxes. And I can tell you this best in my Kansas Loan Pull Project program, where I teach about budgeting. We do financial coaching each month. Is just because you or I are blessed to know what we know and have the knowledge that we have, you can't do better until you know better. And even though we think, well, how come you're this old and you don't know better? Age doesn't qualify what you've learned over your lifetime. Generational poverty is a very difficult thing to fight. When, in fact, that's how you saw over your lifetime, people, the important things were eating pizza and maybe having a beer because that's how you saw your dad's life. Sometimes that's just how you cope. Sometimes that's just that feeling of, I just want to be normal like everyone else. I want to be able to get a six-pack and order pizza on Sunday and watch football. Why can't I do that? So yeah, I'm spending money I know I shouldn't. But man, today I just want my kids to just have pizza. Or today I want a beer, like other people have beer. Or I want to buy a 12-pack of soda. Now, I work with them on trying to decipher the needs and the wants. I understand that, and we work on that. And believe me, I never would have thought it's as hard as it is to get that mindset. But when that's not what you've known, we can't just say, these people can work. How long will we continue to worship the homeless man on Sunday and then ignore him on Monday? The first time I saw that, I said, I won't do it anymore. I can't tell anyone else when they should stop ignoring him on Monday and Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and Saturday. But I know I'm not going to keep worshiping on Sunday and then literally turn around and not living the gospel the moment I leave. That's me, and that's my agency, and those are the people that work under me and the people I work with. That's just our philosophy. Will some people use the system? Yes. But some people will use, we've had a million people from Enron who used the system and used other people. I mean, there are people who are not, don't do the right thing. That's just reality. But I don't have time to decipher if you're going to do the right thing or the wrong thing. I know I have to do the right thing. My agency has to do the right thing. We as agencies have to do the right thing. We believe that's what we're doing.
So how do you get the word out to people who are transit or whatever when it's -6 in Salina and there is a place that they could go? How do you get the word out to people?
We're doing that during our street outreach time. As we go out on the streets, we're actually saying, hey, would you like to go stay at Salina Grace tonight? We will do the referral for you right here and now. And so we try to do all of that while we are doing the street outreach. In addition to that, our local police officers and sheriff's deputies, they all know about Salina Grace, and they know that when they see people out in the community, they'll stop and say, hey, would you like to get some shelter? Maybe the guy's had a few beers. He's not going to be allowed to come to the rescue mission if he's had a few beers. But he can go to Salina Grace and get out of the cold, and then once he's sobered up, then we'll say, now, would you like better services now that you're sober? Would you like to go to the mission and get better help for yourself going forward? We do have security guards who are there at check-in. Check-in is between 7 p.m. and 9 p.m. So they have to come in between 7 to 9 p.m. for check-in unless they're escorted by an officer. Okay. If it's for a man, then Salina Grace Shelter will call us, and we will do the vetting process for Salina Grace. Same thing if it's a woman or family, they will call Ashby House, and Ashby House will do the vetting process. One of the things that we are making sure we're doing, we're trying to be good stewards to our community. And that is, we don't want the floodgates to open up and everybody from across the state suddenly start sending all their homeless to Salina. So what we do is we start off with, where are you from? Okay. Are you on probation? Are you on parole? Oh, you're on probation in Sedgwick County? You need to go back to Sedgwick County. Okay. So throughout the parole and probation offices, they all know, don't send them to the Salina, because Salina's going to send them right back. Okay. We're here to help people in our community. Now, there are people who are transients that, and we have seen an uptick in transients since Colorado legalized marijuana. They're chasing the green dream, okay? They're going out there to the land, to what they think is utopia, where marijuana is legal, and as soon as I get there, all my problems are going to be solved. And I tell you what, we have had so many people come to us because they were going to Colorado or they were coming from Colorado, and they realized once they got there, it wasn't all that they thought it would be. And so we're trying to say, now, wouldn't you like to get yourself some help?
Melinda mentioned resources people don't know about, and it's true that it would help to have a clearinghouse, but I think, Chad, what you're saying, that kind of happens on the ground. Women Helping Women is another agency that will help women in this kind of cause. So that's one thing. Then to the point of the woman, the first lady who made the point about high rent, et cetera, we have many people here who are working poor and on the verge of homeless, if not
Yes,
homeless.
that's right.
And it has to do with the wages paid. So if you want to make some kind of impact, however negligible it may seem, call Mitch at the Economic Development Organization and say, reinforce the point that we need jobs that pay better wages. When we have fast food restaurants going in right and left, I mean, that's a large problem. We're not going to solve it all here, but thank you very much for all you're doing.
Thanks so much for coming. Come back next month. Let me see, what is next month? We're learning about ecosphere studies next month here on the second Tuesday in February. Thank you very much.